power to you, boys and girls, and welcome back to PWT Relight News with your host, Mosey Long. And tonight on Food for Founder, we're going to talk about how today's food supply pressures are shaping prices, availability, and the choices families, yours and mine, are forced to make. The latest reports show that disruptions in agriculture, shipping, and processing are converging in ways consumers can feel directly at the checkout line. What's driving this pressure? Agriculture analysts say the current strain on food systems comes from a combination of weather instability, rising production costs, and transportation bottlenecks. Farmers are dealing with unpredictable growing seasons, higher fertilizer prices, and equipment costs that continue to climb. Meanwhile, processors and distributors are struggling with labor shortages and fuel spikes. The result? Less predictability, tighter supply, and higher prices. And this is how it's showing up in our stars. We, as consumers, are seeing the impact in several key areas. Staple goods like grains, dairy, and produce showing inconsistent availability. Meat and poultry fluctuating in price due to feed costs and processing delays. Packaged foods shrinking in size or staying the same price are increasing. Fresh produce arriving in smaller shipments with more frequent gaps on the shelves. Retailers say they're doing what they can to stabilize inventory, but the upstream issues are making it difficult to maintain consistency. The reality for households are families are adjusting in real time. Some are switching brands, others are buying in bulk where prices dip, and others are turning to local markets for more reliable access. Nutritionists warn that rising prices on fresh foods make households toward cheaper, less healthy options, a trend that could have long-term consequences. Think of the people on fixed income, low income, those who are struggling already with disabilities. Yes, those are the people who really are going to get hurt the worst. Experts emphasize that this isn't a temporary blip. It's part of a larger shift in how food moves from table to table. 1 second, please. Thank you. Oh,
Russell would threaten me and say, okay, well, if you leave, you'll have no money. Kennedy will no longer have a nanny. She won't go to private school. You'll have no place to live. I'll drag you through the court system until I completely bankrupt you and your family. And then I'll take Kennedy from you because you'll be declared an unfit mother because you'll have no money, no resources to take care of her. At a party with a friend of mine, I was over at her house. She and her fiance were getting ready to get married in Vegas, and we were in her backyard by the pool. And Russell, he left, and they knew that this couple was very close to me, and they were very aware of what was going on. And the fiance, the man, said, "We'll help you get out of this because this is not okay, and we're really worried for you." Well, Russell was hiding around the side of the house and heard everything. He didn't actually leave, and he came flying into the backyard. He threw me in the pool. He grabbed the fiance, the man, knocked all of his teeth out, and he jumped in the pool and was trying to hold me under the water. And I thought he was going to drown me.
What always stood out for me on Taylor is that there was hints of domestic violence. And it was my sense that made her appear superficial and somewhat robotic and shut down. But people missed that part and actually participated in the abuse, both other housewives and the public.
Beverly Hills, word travels fast. Beverly Hills is a small town. And it was pretty well known that I had marital problems. But I wasn't ready for my abuse to be outed on television. In season 1 of Beverly Hills, Camille said, "He hit you." We don't say, "He broke your jaw." And I remember looking at my producer across the room in just like a blank stare, thinking, oh no, like it's out. And I can't put this back. Camille had outed the fact that I was being abused. And I was saying, you have no idea what you've done to me. That he's threatened to kill me before. And I don't know what's going to happen. Something big is going to happen one way or another. The Bells are back with a new season. There's nothing with me. They're playing.
Tends to think fame will solve problems. It makes them worse. From child star to porn star, a fall from grace or something else going on.
Fame is a drug. This is not Hollywood. This is reality. The Jerry Springer show destroyed my life. Did you know what it took to get that show on the air? When serious crime strikes, the special agents of the FBI answer the call.
I am.
FBI. She's selling babies. Who's devastated.
We might have more bombs out there.
Gangs, drug dealers saying they're untouchable. We're watching it.
This case is my life. Work it. Dream about it. I will not stop.
Welcome to Drought Brunch. We attract a ton of customers, create a lot of buzz. This makes the restaurant
Before the episode ever aired, where Camille had outed the fact that I was being abused, it's my 40th birthday. We checked into the Four Seasons where we met, and he gave me like 8 pairs of my favorite shoes and a really long card. And it was all about how he knew he hadn't been a good husband and that things were going to change and that today was going to mark this new beginning for us. That night after my birthday party, we were laying in bed and he said something to the effect of, "I know that you slept with the Chippendales when you were in Vegas." I had just went to Vegas for Lisa Vanderpump's daughter's bachelorette party, and they filmed us for Housewives. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he just proceeded to push and push, and he would not let up. And I was like, please just let me go to sleep. It was my birthday. And he raised up, leaned over like this, punched me. He fractured my orbital floor. And so I went to see the doctor, and Russell with me. And the doctor said, what happened? And Russell had told me to tell him that Kennedy kicked me in the face when I was pushing her on the swing. And I told the doctor that, and he goes, were you pushing her from the front of the swing? And I knew the doctor didn't believe for 1 minute what I was saying. And then the doctor said, well, I've only seen this happen one other time. And it was a police officer who during an arrest got punched in the face. And he just let it lie right there. And of course, I couldn't say anything. There was a moment she came on camera with a black eye. And it just it was so horrible. Everything changed after my eye. It took something that dramatic for me to hear from a doctor that I had to have reconstructive surgery that I finally said, I'm being abused. I filed for divorce. I had him move out to a friend's house.
I learned at some point after the lawsuit was filed that Russell was not staying with Taylor. There was some friction that had boiled up.
The second season of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills had already been filmed, but before it aired, there were also rumors about their relationship. And I fear that being on television and being sort of publicly scrutinized really impacted Russell.
August of 2011, we talked, and he just said, everybody's piling on. I could feel the pressure he was under.
I was supposed to have a meeting with Russell at around 1 because I was terrified of the legal ramifications of what he had done and my abuse being outed. And I went to his office, and the lights were off and his door was closed and he wasn't there. And no one had seen him. And so I started calling his phone over and over and over, no answer. And I started just getting a weird feeling. It just was eating away at me. And so I decided to go over to the house where he was staying. And I called one of my friends whose husband was a championship kickboxer to go with me to protect me. And we went there, and we went up to the window, and he put his fingers underneath there and just pried it open. And it was into Russell's bathroom, and there was a big sunken tub. And once we got it open, you could see him hanging. My friend's husband was on the phone with 911. I ran into the street outside the house.
It's all right. It's all right. My friend
And all of a sudden, I realized my daughter and my assistant were in the car right out front. I can't let her see any of this happening. And he said to my assistant, Kennedy said, did my daddy do something stupid?
if you want to help. No, there's nothing you can do.
Are back with a new season. They
Hollywood can be very dark and scary.
Celebrity and where there's money,
pretty high score for film.
A lot of people probably wonder what it would be like to survive a serial killer. It happened so fast. Tied my head to that tree, and all of a sudden got hurt. Somebody had to make him stop, and I was that somebody.
John Gacy said you were the only one that not only got out of the handcuffs, got them on.
Beauty can make you rich. If you're not careful, it can destroy you.
Everyone's a suspect. You're a suspect. I'm a suspect.
It's scary how quickly things got out of hand. There were a myriad of things that he was very concerned about, but I never thought he would kill himself. Suicide never crossed my mind.
Today I'm going to meet with Taylor Armstrong. Taylor Armstrong, I had interviewed her not long after her husband's suicide for my HLN program. She was clearly traumatized by what had happened. So I was gentle. I didn't really learn anything. Taylor,
Hi.
so good to see you.
Great to see you.
So now I'd like to really get into it. You have been through a lot.
Mm-hmm.
My goodness, when I just say that, I can see it in your eyes that it's still with you. Let's talk about it. When did this happen in relation to filming Housewives?
We were filming, so we were right toward the end of the season.
And had you finished filming?
We had not.
Did this all happen in front of cameras?
I had to not film because I had the eye surgery. And then after I had the surgery, we filmed the finale. And everyone was very aware of what had happened.
It was also one of the first times there'd been a serious consequence on a reality program. Is there anything about being in front of reality cameras that makes this kind of thing apt to happen, or is it unrelated?
I question that as well. People have asked me, why would you do a reality show when you know that you have abuse going on in your life? And I've reflected on that. And at the time, I didn't consciously think about it, but maybe in a way, I felt like if the cameras were there, I was going to get the good version of him. Definitely, there's a component of questioning yourself whether you're being abused or not, because he would convince me that it was my fault. But also the way he would just come out of left field with things and accuse me of things that were so unbelievable, that had no basis in fact, was so confusing to me. And I still look back at moments and think, where did he ever come up with that?
Was a lot of just gaslighting about cheating?
Yes. Or about relationships prior to him.
Well, to that point, you said he was in the office all the time. So did you think, or do you wonder now, was he cheating?
Yeah, I never really thought about that. About him having another relationship. I wanted so badly for Kenny to have a dad and a family and to have a picture perfect life. And that was definitely a big part of the staying. And I wish I would have been brave enough to leave her, for sure. For her. And shame for me not being stronger.
I don't see how anybody could call you less than strong. You survived a lot.
Thank you.
Talk to us about his suicide.
I never would have thought he would have done something. It just was, he's the last person I ever thought would take his own life.
Did you ever worry that something suspicious had happened to him?
I didn't in the beginning, but there were some things that were a little suspect around it. I had to hire a law firm to look for his assets because I had no access to bank accounts or anything. And we had an offshore asset protection trust in the Cook Islands that he had told me had $12 million in it. So I hired a law firm to go and try to find the bank accounts, and they were all empty. Everything was gone. And they finally got into the Cook Island Trust, and that was empty too. There ended up being like 30 plus bank accounts, and they were all empty. Then something very strange happened. The next day after the suicide, he had a partner that he did business with. And the wife of this gentleman came in, in hysterics, basically, and saying, oh my God, she had heard the news. She said, oh my God, Russell Armstrong killed himself. And he didn't say what or when, where, what, like a normal, that would be my reaction if someone told me someone I know had killed themselves. And he didn't say anything like that. And he just got up as he was walking away. She said, do you think it was the show? And he said, it wasn't the show. And he left the house and drove to an area very close to where Russell died and shot himself in the head.
The films are back with a Hollywood can be a very dark and scary place.
Where there's celebrity, where there's not.
It's a pretty high score for Trump.
I am now living in Sackett, and I am revisiting the stories. My work here is not done. The teachings. This story touched me in ways that I still remember to this day. This is the I'm fixing my life with new eyes. My work there wasn't healing the channel. That's second Backstreet Boys.
What's this? A scam? We're getting scammed. He was very predatory.
You have no idea. No, what you haven't.
So on August 16th, 2011, Russell was found hanging.
That was at a friend's house on Mulholland Drive. Then the next day, Alan Schramm, who was founder of a hedge fund, also drove to Mulholland Drive and presumably shot himself outside his car. And according to TMZ, both of them are linked to an elite investor club.
There were so many rumors about whether Taylor's husband was tied with that death.
That's just really, really weird. So either it's something fishy or they really had something that very deep that they were scared of.
And was there anything otherwise suspicious about this man?
The other man that killed himself. No, I didn't even realize they had that many dealings together. We had had a couple of dinners with them, but other than that, I didn't know that they were that in partnership. I don't know what would have led them both to make that decision.
Or could somebody have done that to them? Set them up?
I've definitely thought about that, whether it could have been you take your own life or we're going to take the life of your family.
You're shaking even now thinking about it.
I just feel like there must have been more going on, obviously, behind the scenes than I was aware of.
I read the autopsy report, and there were aspects of the suicide that are still strange. No alcohol in his system. Somebody like him, I would expect him to leave a letter, but there were aspects that sounded like suicide, motivation for suicide, and I believe it could be a suicide.
I called the investigating officer just because his mom and sister and dad had so many questions. And he went through the details and why it didn't seem like a murder.
I was sick about what happened to Russell. It bothered me. If you look at the time connection between filing the lawsuit and Russell's passing, you're going to see several weeks, maybe 10, 12 days. That doesn't tell the whole story. We effectively served Russell, and within 48 hours, I'd heard he committed suicide. It's hard for me to not assume that there's a cause and effect there. Is that the straw? Is that the straw that pushed Russell over? I don't know. No one will know the answer, but certainly I thought about that.
You and I raised a lot of weird questions just because we have a lot of question marks over our head. They're strictly speculation, right? We can also take it the other direction and say he was ashamed. He was about to face fraud. He was about to be publicly outed for being an abuser. He was somebody that could easily commit suicide. Do you agree?
Mhm.
I want you to know you're so much better than when I last spoke to you. Hey, every time I see you, you're better.
Thank you.
And you should feel really good about that. It's a lot. So thank you so much. Congratulations on everything you're doing. And it's a pleasure to see you.
Good to see
A
you.
pleasure to see you doing so well.
Thank you so much.
So the second season of the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills had already been filmed at the time of Russell's death. People wondered, were they actually going to show the build-up and the suicide on the television program? I think they wisely elected not to do that, but they did certainly document or follow the housewives in the aftermath of the suicide.
I never saw any sign of it. I thought that they handled it very gracefully, but also kind of crazy that like a producer probably was like, okay, girls, we're going to get together and we're going to talk about suicide. That just like felt just really not icky, but it just was like very strange. And Taylor still, was on the show picking up this mess that was left. It was only in the years after that we really learned more about what Russell was doing to the people that had been in his life and had worked with him. I think this was really kind of the first time that you saw a story of this kind play out on a show. And I think also the fact that it happened in the most unexpected place. You don't believe that bad things can happen to beautiful, wealthy people.
The Housewives franchise move along. We've seen table flips. We've seen hair pulling. We've seen domestic abuse. We've seen a surprising number of these women have been involved in illegal activity. You have to wonder why they end up selecting people who are prone to criminality. But there is sort of an understanding that the fans were demanding it, but not directly saying it. When the Orange County Housewives, the first franchise of the housewife franchise, showed up, it was really about women with money. It wasn't drama that had changed. And really the conceit was, well, look, their relationships aren't great. They have lots of money, but they're really not that happy. As there was more and more conflict, more and more drama, you see the ratings start to increase. Oh, just chills.
Gerardi is about to be sued for rashing screwing you guys. And if a housewife has a criminal background, for a Real Housewife producer, they're probably thinking this is someone who has lived quite a life. And ultimately, that's what people want to watch.
I quit the show after 5 seasons, and I've had enough. My kids are over it. It was starting to affect them in school, and I was done. I wanted it to be a learning show, teach people something, because, we were all very successful. I didn't want it to be about drunks falling and chipping and breaking their teeth.
I was on for 2 seasons when I was going through when my girl's dad died. I'm like, well, I can't film. So, it was a choice I made for my girls. But let me tell you, most people that do these shows, they're not happy. There's a reason they're doing it. They're doing it because they're missing something too.
What do you think that the production company or network gravitated towards you?
I think that there were rumblings going through the casting about my marriage, and that was probably attractive for the drama. After the suicide, I did another season, and I had to get away. So I went to Vail, Colorado, and I put Kennedy in a little school where nobody really knew us. And I just spent time trying to get back to some form of sanity in the mountains.
It's normal in television production to always be concerned with how do we outdo ourselves next season. The question in a Housewives franchise is, what does that mean?
And I think viewers and the producers are always trying to figure out where that line is. I'm not guilty of any of these.
What could possibly be bigger that's not also terribly dangerous and destructive? And my fundamental response to anyone out there that thinks drama is a good idea,
So do you love me or hate me?
be careful what you wish for.
The Von Erichs were gods. They were just the blueprint of what wrestling should be.
But with that came tragedy. The movie says it's inspired by a true story, but it is not the full story.
Wrestling is athletic performance meets bodybuilding meets a melodrama.
The glitz and the glamour, the theme music. The pomp and circumstance was created by the Von Erichs. They were important to the industry because they are just the blueprint of what wrestling should be.
Fritz von Erich was the patriarch of the family who eventually had 6 sons, 5 of whom wrestled.
When they became wrestlers, they became very good at it and very big. But with that came tragedy. So I almost wish that it never happened.
This is one family, a single generation of 6 brothers, 5 of whom end up dead.
These guys were kids. They're just kids, man.
Sheriff's deputies found Carrie's body with a single gunshot wound to the chest.
He's still very, very sick.
Located a white male victim laying in some brush. If there were ever a circumstance that looked like a curse, it's this one.
The only one left now.
Do you feel like you've ever sat down and told the full story before?
Thank everyone out there for your prayers. Keep us.
Part of my education and working with athletes came from a gentleman who's now my friend by the name of Dennis Rodman. I was working with him and he said, you gotta understand one thing. Here's God, put his hand down about an inch and he goes, and here's professional athletes. And if you understand that, we're gonna be okay.
In 2023, A24 released a movie called The Iron Claw, which is about this famous wrestling family, this wrestling dynasty with an incredibly tragic story, the Von Erichs.
Ever since I was a child, people said my family was cursed. We never talked about it.
I just finished watching The Iron Claw, and this was truly an all-star cast in this movie, including Zac Efron, Jeremy Allen White, Mara Turney. They're great actors and actresses. Fritz von Erich was the patriarch of this family. In the movie, Fritz is very rigid, cold, harsh. He was an athlete, a wrestler, alpha male, eventually had 6 sons, 5 of whom end up dead at a very young age.
The movie says it's inspired by a true story, but it is not the full story.
No.
My name is Kevin Von Erich. The movie The Iron Claw has been out, and Zac Efron plays me.
What do you like to do with your brothers?
Just being together. See what's great of it. I've been a big brother my whole life. I had so many little brothers, and I love them so much. And I'm the only one left now. Endorse the movie. But I have to correct the record. Their lives are worth more than just pretend this happened, because it didn't.
In Iron Claw, Holt McCallany plays the father of the Von Erich brothers. His name is Fritz Von Erich. But the movie portrayed him as more of a villain.
Fritz Von Erich's real name was Jack Atkinson.
Fritz grew up in Jewett, Texas. He was raised in a poor family around the time of the Great Depression.
According to legend, Fritz, when he was born, was very large, 15 pounds.
He was a really big kid.
My granddad's childhood is something he rarely talked about. His father was the sheriff of their town, and some of the boys in the town it was almost like chicken fighting. The dads would take their boys out and let them fight. They'd bet on their sons.
And they'd go bare knuckles, and people would bet money, kind of like fighting roosters or fighting, dog ear or that. But back then they did it.
And now you gotta realize this is a different time. Boys would fight each other for money. Money was hard to come by,
Granddad definitely didn't have an example of like a loving father in his own father. And Granddad told me one time his father didn't speak a word to him, and they never had a conversation until I was about 10 years old. And he said, "Get in the truck, we're gonna go hunt." And so he wanted to prove that he could do something worthwhile to show his dad that he was worth loving, worth talking to. He wanted to be successful.
He played football at Southern Methodist University.
He was just good at everything he did. He was fast too.
He ended up playing football for the Dallas Texans, which was an NFL team.
My mom and dad met in Dallas when I was a football player there.
She knew that he was going to do well for himself. This is a guy who is going to do something important.
They were so in love too.
A couple of months later, Granddad was cut from the Dallas Texans.
Felt disappointed. Fritz wasn't somebody who gave up easily. And so as he tries to work for a different league, he ends up meeting a wrestling promoter who's looking for his next big star.
And he said, "Wow, you would be a great wrestler. You got the physique and the character for it."
After his football career, he hit the wrestling circuit in the 1950s.
Wrestling's pretty big all over the place. Like you can find local wrestling heroes kind of anywhere.
Ladies and gentlemen, just in case you are deaf, dumb, blind, or stupid, my name is Maxwell Jacob Friedman. I am the greatest wrestler on God's green earth. I'm definitely a historian of the industry. I'm a genius when it comes to professional wrestling. Back then, professional wrestling was not like it is now, where there's two major promotions. You have WWE, you have All Elite Wrestling.
Back then, the wrestling leagues weren't centralized like they kind of are now. Then they were a little more regional.
You had your local regional television stations, and we call those territories. Basically, you had the territories because that's where the TV would reach.
Territories in those days have hometown baby faces and traveling heels.
I'm Chris Jericho, the Ocho 8-time world champion and pro wrestler for 33 years. So babyface is a good guy. He's the protagonist of your story. And the heel is the bad guy. If you don't have a great story and great characters, then it's just two half-naked guys rolling around in their underwear.
Fritz, when he hit the wrestling circuit, originally was a character of a villain. And the perfect villain at that time, post-World War II, would be a Nazi.
People were furious, hated him, and he had a fan staged in a wheelchair, and the guy booed him, and Granddad turned the wheelchair over, and the crowd just lost their minds.
Fritz was the embodiment of hatred. When he walked into a room, he walked into a room with disgust.
Fritz's signature move was the iron claw. No one can sell it better than Fritz.
My granddad's game with this really strong grip, this iron grip, right into the temples, the pressure points of the person's head, and you just squeeze and crush.
He's alleged to have drawn blood, but my understanding of wrestling is they would hide sharp objects in order to be able to draw blood and make it look like more traumatic than it was.
People saw Fritz in the ring, they thought it was real, period.
His firstborn son was Jack Jr.
And then Kevin. After that, it was David.
As a little boys, we thought my father was just the greatest thing in the world. His kids were everything to him. We had such love in our family. I remember Jackie protecting me, like thinking something's going to get me. He'd be right there, B or whatever, and he was loved my dad, or they were close. Life was good.
My granddad was out wrestling. My grandmother was home at the time with the kids. Jackie was 6. Mimi was cleaning up the house. Jackie kept, asking if he could go play outside or if he could do this or that. And she said, why don't you go play at your friend's house? And he got dressed, and Mimi remembers him at the door right before he left. He turned and he said, "So long." And it just stuck with her. She finished cleaning up and then called her friend just a few houses over and said, "You can send Jackie home now. I'm done cleaning up." And her friend was like, "What do you mean? He's not over here." She ran outside, yelling his name, screaming his name, came back inside, called the police. A police officer came to the door, and we found him. But his face looked like sorrowful.
Jackie was walking to his friends. He was touching a metal fence. There was a wire, exposed wire that was touching the fence.
He is electrocuted, he's tossed into a puddle, and either dies of electrocution or actually drowns in that puddle.
I had a brother, a big brother, and I thought he was great. That's all I remember, except my dad told up, he heard what happened. He broke that window with his fist, and my mother was devastated. And I was a baby, but I knew something was big. I remember telling her, I'll fix it. I'll get him. I'll find him. I can't imagine losing one of my children. But they did. After that, my dad was really, when he became a different man. Actors talk about having some kind of pain to draw on. My dad was like furious at everyone. It was like, my son died because I was on the road, and I was on the road because we knew.
Fritz was lost, and he took it out on his opponents. It was payback time.
Some things have a way of lighting up our world. Words, moments, people, the things that give us hope. And if you have early Alzheimer's disease, Kisunla is here. Here comes the sun. An anti-amyloid treatment for early symptomatic Alzheimer's disease, proven to slow the progression of the disease. Kisunla can cause amyloid-related imaging abnormalities, or ARIA, which is temporary bleeding and or swelling in the brain. Your doctor may test for a gene that raises its risk. ARIA doesn't usually cause symptoms, but can be serious and fatal. Symptoms may include headache, confusion, dizziness, vision changes, nausea, difficulty walking, or seizures. Tell your doctor if you take medications to reduce blood clots. Do not take if you have a known allergy to Kisunla or any of its ingredients. Serious infusion-related and allergic reactions can occur. These are not all of the possible side effects. Call your doctor right away if you experience any side effects. There's a light within us all. Visit Kisunla.com to learn about evaluation and testing to see if Kisunla may be right for you. Retention, and it can make you rich. But if you're not careful, it can destroy you. It's one of the most salacious stories to ever come out of the porn industry.
Everyone's a suspect. You're a suspect. I'm a suspect.
It's scary just how quickly things die out of hand.
The Bells are back with a I'm saying
After Jack's death, Fritz pushed Doris to have more kids.
I think Granddad, rather than really deeply grieve, he thought, what can I fix, in this situation? I can have another baby.
This is something that sometimes parents will do to try to put the grief away, have more kids, paper it over. Whenever the ghosts of the past enter into the childbearing, it tends to not go well for the child.
After Jack's death, Kevin was the oldest brother. And then Dave, and then Carrie came along soon thereafter.
I'm Holly. I'm Carrie Von Erich's oldest daughter.
I'm Lacey Von Erich, and Carrie Von Erich is my father.
Granddad really seemed to just love Daddy. They did have a special bond.
After Carrie came Mike, and then lastly was Chris, and he was the baby of the family.
Fritz would bring the boys up with him in the ring when they were little. People watched those boys grow up.
Fritz perhaps was non-consciously exposing his boys to the idea of a career in wrestling because of the fame and notoriety he got.
I was the big brother, and I was the first. I always thought God made a mistake because I'm not meant to be the big brother. But I had to grow up really fast. The kids at school, everybody believed wrestling. So everybody thinks my dad's bad. These people don't know the dad that we know. We thought Dad was great, and if you don't like him, we don't like you. I was in first grade, and Kevin was in fourth grade. I just remember Kevin being the type of big brother that if somebody was bothering his brothers, he would step in and not allow it. It's real easy to get this mentality like it's us versus them. And so I had to fight a lot, and my dad trained me to be strong. He thought, for this are you. You don't quit. You don't give up. You don't take the weak. You fight. My dad bought 96 acres way out in the middle of nowhere. We had a little barn for gym, and Dad bought weights for us, and everything was athletics. We had a routine that we'd follow every week. Mondays, we'd run 110 meter sprints. Tuesdays and Thursdays, we'd run 400 meters for time. And in the summer, we'd swim a lot. And we would show a lot.
These guys were like Greek gods. They were gorgeous and all-American. They had long flowing hair, and they were massive. They ranged from Dave at 6'7" and 230 pounds to Mike at 6'1" and 200 pounds.
Kevin was the second oldest son, and after Jack died, the eldest son. And he was the first to get into wrestling.
I loved football, and I thought that was it for me. I was a punter and a running back. So I got back to college. I didn't want to be a wrestler.
So why did you?
Because he did. He thought he was great. Everything he did. I think there was a sense of duty. It was a family business. It really was, and I'm the big brother.
Wrestling dynasties is like it's a thing where it's kind of like, this is your crown to inherit. It's your birthright.
So that's work. Bring home a check, no more in the goods. But it was just amazing to me to get in line and do that, and the people to respond the way they did, and it would been foolish not to continue doing it.
It wasn't when I was in college. Maybe a little kooky, but that's it. That's how I am. Kevin was interesting because he wrestled bare feet. He just had his own style, just this high-flying, acrobatic, super athlete. He was incredible at making you invested in what was going on.
This time, Dave and Carrie joined the family business as well. At that point, it would have been weird to not pursue it. Your dad's done it, your big brother's doing it. You're going to be like, yeah, I want to do what everybody thinks is cool.
It wasn't exactly their dream, but when they became wrestlers, they became very good at it and very big.
Then, after wrestling for about 30 years, in 1982, Fritz decides to retire from wrestling and he's going to go into promoting. A wrestling promoter is responsible for all the logistics, booking and promoting and making sure everybody gets paid.
When Fritz became a promoter, he changed wrestling forever.
Fritz was a visionary. He said, you know, guys, I'm doing this thing coming out. It's called cable TV. We're getting ready to go bigger than Dallas-Fort Worth. And we're going to do filming that's going to be all over the United States.
And so Fritz starts an organization called the WCCW, which is World Class Championship Wrestling.
Fritz Von Erich was the first one to venture out of the local regional market, and that blows up.
All of a sudden, instead of using 2 cameras, we're filming probably 6 different guys. And then we added the microphones to the ring. And then we would do instant replay, vignettes of the wrestlers. We started the music coming to the ring. And that was really the Von Erich voice.
Before the Von Erichs, nobody came out to theme music. It wasn't a thing. The pomp and circumstance was created by Fritz, by the Von Erichs coming out to that epic song. It's created what you watch now. Bottom line, today it's got pyro and lasers and bombs and loud music because of the Von Erichs.
Then the ratings came out. All of a sudden, we saw everyone was watching wrestling.
The WCC broadcasts their fights across the country on 80 stations and in 23 international countries. In 1982, the WCCW brought in $11 million, which would be over $36 million today.
Kevin Von Erich, David Von Erich, and Kerry Von Erich were the rock stars of world-class wrestling, period.
The Von Erichs were gods. Here you had 3 hot young baby faces, and they were all related, and they were all good-looking guys. It's a promoter's dream. It's Fritz's dream. It was like Texas Beatlemania with the 3 Von Erichs in the center of it.
When the Von Erichs walked into an arena, your ears bled because they were Texas boys in front of a Texas crowd.
We were so out of arenas. It was thrilling, you know. The girls were great, wild. The girls with nice ass. It was embarrassing on the left field because I was married. So I considered it almost an imposition that the girls were behaving like that, you know.
I know when they're screaming, he was so handsome, and they would come, oh, I love him. He's so handsome. And he's so sexy. Like, I know he is. I feel the same way. I first met Kevin, I was in 8th grade, and I think I loved him from that moment.
I knew I was going to marry Pam really young.
I never felt like, don't say that about my husband. I own him because, that was his job. They were world famous wrestling brothers.
David Von Erich was really the best wrestler of all 3 of the brothers. From a technical standpoint, David was the best.
Dave was the tallest, and he was 5 inches taller than all the other boys.
In those days, height meant everything. He's also the one that kind of looked the most like Fritz, not movie star looks like Kevin and Kerry had. He looked more like someone that would beat the out of you in a bar and not even care.
Von Erichs became internationally famous. So now they would tour locally in the US. They would also go to international places to wrestle there as well.
It's really grueling. Each one of us, we wrestle like 7 days a week. But man, we only day off about.
The Von Erichs would go to Japan about every 6 months. And they would wrestle over there for about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then come back. And they're big, big stars, big names. This particular time, Dave was going on his own. And he was only going to be over there 2 weeks.
He's 25 years old. And I thought Dave didn't look well. His color wasn't right.
Dave said, maybe I should go get checked out. And Church made the comment, you can do that when you get back home. We can't be late to get over there.
I said, don't go over there and dial me, Dave. Thinking the never said it again. I
saw David right before he left. He was acting strange. He kind of got in front of me and straightened my hat and my coat. He said, I'll be leaving in a couple of days. He said, I won't see you for a while. And it was almost like he felt like he wasn't coming back.
He'd only been there 1 day. My phone rings about 2 o'clock in the morning. I said, hello? And I'm like, what?
It's time to suit up. Step into your superhero story and set sail. Marvel Days at Sea. Select sailings January through March from Galveston, Texas. Only on Disney Cruise Line.
Relationships. If one of you is struggling with community, it can be stressful for the both of you.
We have been having serious challenges financially. It's overwhelming.
What if you could nominate an important person in your life to help fix some of the problems? You just came up with that.
You said powerful.
We're here to mend their relationships with money and each other. I told you needed help.
You can get your attention and it can make you rich. But if you're not careful, it can destroy you.
We got a so just easy. We're scared.
It's one of the most salacious stories to ever come out of the porn industry.
Everyone's a suspect. You're a suspect. I'm a suspect.
It's scary just how quickly things got out of hand.
Work here is not done.
Teachings. This story touched me in ways that I still remember to this day.
This is the healing of the my wise.
My work there wasn't the healing began.
After arriving in Japan, Dave and all the other American wrestlers were taken out for dinner.
They were drinking heavily, eating tremendous amounts, and then drinking more alcohol. Before he goes to bed, he is observed to be sitting on the edge of his bed by another wrestler.
The next day, he didn't show up on the wrestler's bus, so one of the Japanese referees went to go look for him.
Dave had only been in Japan 1 day. And then all of a sudden, my phone rings about 2 o'clock in the morning. I said, hello? They go, David Manning? And I said, yes. Joe Higuchi, All Japan Pro Wrestling. And I'm like, what?
The phone rang about 3:30. It was a crying girl's voice. And I recognized it as Dave's wife, Tricia. And she said, Dave's dead. So I just like, hit me like a truck. But no one knew how he died. And I just said, I gotta go, Trish. On the phone up. Went out to the field.
I had to go tell Fritz. He needed to hear this face to face. And so I'll never forget when I pulled in, it was just coming daylight. And I could see Fritz in the front window. He's making coffee. He opened the door before I could even knock, and he looked at me and he said, "Which one?" And I said, I already told him, I said, "Fritz." I said, "David's dead." And the look on his face, Doris was outside. Excuse me. And she said, she said it was a mistake, wasn't it? Carrie, Mike, and Chris, they sobbed, but they didn't want anybody to see them weeping.
And my senses were really dulled. I just didn't have any thoughts that were hardly comprehensible because I wanted to just think about Dave all the time. I missed him so bad. For any type of words.
It really didn't hit me probably until the funeral. Because to me, it was like I lost a brother.
Well, I was one of the pallbearers, and the police had the highway blocked off for us all the way until we pulled into the funeral home.
And then when we got there, every police officer were lined up on the side, and they were standing side by side saluting as the hearse went by. It was incredible. I mean, you would have thought it was the death of a president. There was 2,000-3,000 inside, and outside there was between 5,000 and 10,000 people. And the people were, God, they were just crying. We really saw how much love, true love, the fans had for Von Erich. I remember Fritz said, "Call Japan and you find out what happened to my son." We were waiting on the autopsy. He said, "Whatever the autopsy says, we have to go with it because Japan's already seen it. And it's going to leak out what that autopsy says." But when we did get the autopsy from Japan, it said acute enteritis, which caused heart failure.
Gastroenteritis is a viral illness of the intestines and stomach, causes vomiting and diarrhea. While adults can develop gastroenteritis, the mortality rate is exceedingly low. It's a little more serious in kids, but it can happen at any age. Now, in the case of David, the medical examiner reported that gastroenteritis contributed to his death. I take issue with that. I doubt that's the case. Now, remember, this was 1984. I cannot tell you how often medical examiners misdiagnose substance-related death. There has to be something more than gastroenteritis that took David.
Drugs. Sometimes you have no choice but to take a painkiller because what else are you going to do? Now, am I saying it's a good thing? No, but back then, there were real consequences if you didn't get the ring. You had to feed your family and your loved ones. So pop that pill and get in there.
We knew Dave was taking some pain pills. It can become an addiction. He also liked Quaaludes, which is kind of a painkiller. It's a calm down.
Now, in wrestling, when there's substance use, it's always opiates. It's always painkillers. My suspicion is this was opiate-induced, where the colon just stops moving and fills with stool, and he ruptured his colon in Japan and became septic. That is a very common thing. Now, it's reported that there were no drugs or alcohol found in his room after his death. However, A, we know for sure he was drinking heavily before he went to bed. B, he was known to use substances, so it doesn't have to be in the room. And C, somebody may have cleaned it up. But we'll never know.
So, travel prices are out of control. Time to save the world. Lots of cash.
No one knows more details than this.
Student has become a negotiator.
I am Young Van Sant. I am revisiting the stories that fix my life with new eyes. Let the healing begin.
A lot of people probably wonder what it would be like to survive a serial killer. It happened so fast. Tied my head to that tree, and then all of a sudden it hurt.
Somebody had to make him stop. And I was that somebody.
John Gacy said, "You were the only one that not only got out of the handcuffs, got them on me." Crazy that even though we're dealing with what we're dealing with, business had to go on. There was no time to mourn. In front of the fans, they tried to stay strong. And Kevin tried to stay stronger than anybody for the other boys, the brothers.
Yeah, that's a rough spot, really, because Carrie and I sure did not feel like wrestling. Boy, we didn't want to do that. It was so bad. So bad.
When Carrie lost Uncle David, it hit him really, really hard. Like he was really struggling with this just guilt that he was gone and that Daddy was still here. My mom was having to constantly like coach him and encourage him to just like keep going.
Shortly after David had passed, Carrie called me, said, "Sit down." He said, "You and David were like brothers." He said, "I want to be brothers." And I said, "Carrie, we are brothers." He said, "No, I want to be brothers like you and David were." And we both got watery eyes, and I hugged him. I said, "Carrie, you're my brother. You always will be my brother."
Boy, we didn't want to get back in the ring. We got a little too soon, but Dad kind of pushed us on that one.
I think that was hard on my dad. Their brother dies and they're still wrestling the next day. He wanted them to hurry up and wrestle after Uncle Dave died, which is the same reason that he wanted to hurry up and have Uncle Kerry after Uncle Jackie died. He doesn't want to think about his son being dead. Let's just focus on the show. The show must go on, right?
With David gone, we brought Mike in.
It is my pleasure to welcome for his first professional wrestling bout, Mike Monterey.
He was 19 years old. He just graduated high school. Mike was having to fill in a spot. It was empty. The Von Erichs were a wrestling family, and Mike had to step up and take the place.
Mike was like the darling of the family.
Mike was a treasure. He was so funny. He was a really funny guy. He cracked me up all the time.
Mike wanted to be a musician. To me, in his heart and soul, he did not want to be a professional wrestler. I think Mike wrestled because he thought that was his role as being a brother, and wrestling maybe got in the way of him being who he wanted to be.
This is a family business, and where family businesses can become problematic is when the psychological dynamic is such that you're either all in or all out, and the threat of being out keeps you in and doing things you might not really want to do.
Mike needed to get ready for the biggest crowd yet. After David's death, the next big event was the Von Erich Memorial Parade of Champions, and it was dedicated to David's honor.
We had people coming from all over the world. Texas Stadium, 42,000 people.
It was the biggest crowd to ever see a wrestling match.
He was set to wrestle the main event. Fritz came out of retirement to fight alongside Kevin and Mike against their all-time rivals, the Freebirds.
It was a classic matchup. The American good old boys from Texas against the bad boys, the villains. Tag team. Family against family.
That time frame, you're talking early mid-'80s, Von Erichs versus Freebirds was probably the hottest program in the entire world.
There's the bell, and it's Kevin against Roberts.
They were champions. Yeah, they were champions. They need to be corrected.
It was just perfect because you have the Von Erich tournament stand for everything that's good. And then you have the Freebirds, who are these loud, obnoxious bulls.
All kids. We wanted to make this life. We just felt
That was a precursor to the main event, which was the title fight.
So obviously the big match, the big build up, the 42,000 people, they were there to see Kerry Von Erich versus Ric Flair.
Ric Flair was an incredibly popular wrestler who had been the crown champion for years.
When David passed away, it was obviously a huge blow to the Von Erich family, a huge blow to pro wrestling in general. So now Kerry's doing it for the family, and more importantly, for the fans.
I was refereeing the match. This was a major production. But the crowd, when Kerry hit the ring, he wore a robe that had a yellow flower in Texas for David, and the people were just crying.
Oh my gosh, he was so young. I've never watched that. Off the rope, whoa, close eyes. Oh, girl. Touch the clothesline. I guess it's
The eruption of the crowd, it was crazy. It's a sea of people standing and cheering, and then there's us in the little ring.
Oh, man. Good job, Daddy.
Daddy was a champion. He was the best.
It's kind of crazy to see this amazing moment happening between my dad and all of my uncles, like winning this big championship. And they were all there except Uncle David. This is what Granddad was going for, right? You're the champion. Everyone's rooting for your family. But in reality, do you feel like you're winning? Your son is dead. Are your kids happy? I don't understand the goal. And if the goal was to be the champion, then you did it. Why did we keep going?
Mike initially did not want to be a wrestler. Then he participated in this stadium event, and the intensity, the crowd, the glitz, the glamour, the women, the adulation, the success. He enjoyed it, and it, in fact, was the beginning of his downfall.
Mike wrestles sometimes twice or 3 times a day. Sometimes you get a few days off, but it's very often.
At one point, Mike had 200 matches in a row, and you can imagine how punishing that is on the body.
Mike, he made it in professional wrestling without all the tools to do it with. He couldn't talk on the mic like the 3 older brothers. He wasn't built like them.
This is rare footage of Mike Van Erich taking on Gino Hernandez during WCCW's 1985 tour of Israel. There's a lot of aggression. He was thrown on the cement flooring outside the ring. He was thrown into the metal fencing. And then right after that,
Mike had a shoulder dislocated in Israel.
right after Mike wins, he's holding the belt with his right hand only. And when he's running around the ring with both hands up, you'll notice it's more like this than with both hands extended. So something has already happened.
He had to have a surgery. We took him home to Texas to be operated on.
But it wasn't the shoulder surgery that was the problem. It was the complications that followed.
I went to pick him up because his wife said, Mike is acting kooky, like he doesn't know me. We raced over and Mike just looked out of it, just eyes rolling around. Kevin threw him over his shoulder and put him in the car, and we drove to the hospital.
And of course, what fans want to know is when will Mike be in the ring again?
He's still very, very sick. There's no about that.
His fever was 107 for several hours.
The doctor came out and said, we've done everything we can do. It's just a matter of time. Mike's not going to make it.
Believe money can get you attention and it can make you rich. But if you're not careful, it can destroy you.
Just eat, scare.
It's one of the most salacious stories to ever come out of the porn industry.
Everyone's a suspect. You're a suspect. I'm a suspect.
It's scary just how quickly things got out of hand.
Relationships. If one of you is struggling with finances, it can be stressful for the both of you. We have been having serious challenges financially. It's overwhelming. What if you could nominate an important person in their life to help fix their money problems? You keep skimming off the top.
You said,
We're here to mend their relationships with money and each other. I told you you needed help. Hey.
Welcome to Giraffe Brunch. Every restaurant needs us for a given reason.
I want it to be successful.
Samantha, I really need your help. She's trying a ton of customers, create a lot of buzz, and it makes restaurants.
Drake Brunch saved us. There's an issue after leg surgery, and he ended up getting toxic shock syndrome in his shoulder.
Toxic shock is a syndrome typically associated with certain bacteria where the toxin from the bacteria breaks out into the bloodstream and causes kidney failure.
People were literally blowing up the phone with the hospital.
It is in serious to critical condition.
There were people that keep calling to donate their kidneys. It's beautiful. It was such love.
And I want to thank everyone out there, all my good neighbors for your prayers.
The doctor told us he's not going to make it. Say goodbye now.
Kevin and I were standing there. He said, let's pray. And we all grabbed hands.
Preacher was there with us, and he was praying for us for this miracle. We're asking you, God, to stand on your word. You said it, so do it.
And he slammed the Bible down on the table. And he said, there's your word, deliver. These doctors have said they know not what to do, but there's something that can be done, deliver. And it was not 30, 45 seconds. The doors opened. The doctor came back out. He said, well, I'm not sure what happened. Mike's made it turn out better.
It was a miracle.
There have been no focal neurologic problems and nothing that I anticipate will be a problem in the future.
Mike was never the same after he left the hospital. He just had a lost look when you would look at him. It was almost like, how do I function? How do I walk?
This happened in 1985. Doctors were calling a lot of things toxic shock, but this was probably septic shock, which happens after a surgery like this. If their surgical site gets infected and it gets through the body, they go into shock and they can easily die. Toxic shock does not really have a lot of good treatment, while septic shock responds to antibiotics. If they had treated him right away for septic shock, he may have responded, he may have done well, much less impact on his body.
Whenever they say it's okay to start working out, well, I'm going to be in there working hard. And the problem was, I wanted to get back in the damn ring.
I'm pleased to present to you a living miracle. Walk into the cosmos. Next, on Eric.
I also feel there was pressure from Fritz to not lose this steam that they had built up with Uncle Mike before he had hurt his shoulder.
He goes back to the ring in 6 months. That just was not enough time. Athletes generally will put performance and winning above everything. They will sacrifice themselves to their sport. And in this case, we're adding to it the family dynamics. They may not have understood the full impact of exposing him even to minor head injury.
When he finally got back in the ring, he just wasn't there. His moves that would normally be like click, 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 click were maybe 5 clicks. after when it should have taken place.
During that time, he also had several car accidents where he lost control of the vehicle. One in 1986 where he turned the vehicle over and had a clear head injury.
Mike would go through like this fits of rage. One time he had attacked a traffic light and just smashed it. And when he heard what he did, he was so sorry and felt so embarrassed.
The fact that he lost control of multiple vehicles and he was having outbursts of anger, typically associated with concussions. The question is, did he get these brain injuries from wrestling, or is it strictly because of that episode of septic shock? My suspicion, both. It's both.
Mike was taking every medication you could get down somewhat. And I think deep down, Mike knew that he was never going to be Mike Von Erich again.
One time, Mike was driving home through this little town, and he had half a joint, and the officer pulled him over and said, "Oh, what do we have here?" He was going to throw the book at him, and Mike was so scared. Just please don't do that. Please don't do this. I mean, give me a ticket or something. No. He knew who Mike was. You know, your little punk, you and your brothers.
Early Saturday morning, Von Erich was arrested on suspicion of felony driving possession of marijuana.
He really felt like life was over. I shamed everyone.
A single rumor, drug possession or arrest can ruin a reputation in those days, especially when you are portrayed as a clean-cut Christian good guy from Texas.
When he got busted, it was like he let us all down. I think Mike thought, I'm doomed.
It was a rainy night, and I remember my parents saying, "We can't find Mike. I have a bad feeling about this."
We heard Mike was missing. They were searching everywhere. Where could he be? Where could he be? Where could he be?
So we searched, we all drove and searched. Got home, I think about 4 or 5 o'clock, and then we heard on the news they found Mike.
His mother watched as men and their dogs trudged out of deep woods to report their discovery. Located a white mountain, land, and some brush.
He was in a sleeping blanket out at the lake.
They found him at a reservoir, having overdosed on alcohol and placidil, an old-fashioned sleeping medication. He was 23 years old at the time.
You know, of course, everybody was devastated. I mean, it was just another one's gone, you know. To lose Dave and then lose Mike, it was so bad.
When Mike died, Kevin and Carrie just sobbed, and I put my arms around him, but they didn't want anybody to see them weeping. Is there a right way to grieve? You don't really know.
Dad wanted us to get right in the ring, you know, and it was just too much. We had to say, no, we need more time.
People sold out that first show to come back, and we used to do a thing where we'd ring the bell 10 times in silence as, you know, a final bell. At that point, I think a lot of the fans had a lot of questions. So I think a lot of the fans, they blamed Fritz. Well, they shouldn't have made him go back in the ring.
You know, with the deaths, everything like the way they were, sure, somebody must have found the bad guy. Where's the bad guy in this?
Beauty can get you attention and it can make you rich. But if you're not careful, it can destroy you.
Just eat. We're scared.
It's one of the most salacious stories to ever come out of the porn industry.
Everyone's a suspect. We're a suspect. I'm a suspect.
It's scary just how quickly things got out of hand.
The Bells are back with a